Welcome, scholars, to Mr. Ehrenfeld's American History lesson for today. We're going to look at the New Deal, which is the name given by President Franklin Roosevelt to a set of programs he put together designed to help the country survive and ultimately make it out of the Great Depression. Although the New Deal had mixed results and ultimately didn't end the Depression by itself, some of its impacts are still felt today. Importantly, the government empowered its citizens to shine a light on the horrific conditions in which many of our neighbors were forced to live. Dorothea Lange was a successful San Francisco portrait photographer until the Great Depression struck. In the 1930s, business dried up and her first marriage ended by 1935. At the time, she was 40 and had 2 children. At the same time, she began taking darker, more intense portraits, compared by some to the photos taken by Jacob Riis about 30 years earlier on New York's Lower East Side, where Lange grew up and attended school as a child. This shift brought her to the attention of muckraking economics professor Paul Schuster Taylor, who hired her to illustrate his work. They married quickly and began a fruitful professional and personal partnership. Also in 1935, Lange was hired by the Farm Security Administration, part of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal program. A huge number of programs were aimed at providing people relief through jobs programs, while others aimed at reform and recovery, the 3 R's. Lange, along with so many other artists employed by the government during this time, used her platform to raise awareness and compassion for people who were struggling. Her famous Migrant Mother photo shows a woman named Florence Owens Thompson, a mother of 7. Lange's goal with this photo was to humanize the suffering of millions of migrant workers, many of whom came from the Midwest, especially Oklahoma, out to California looking for work during the Dust Bowl. They were sometimes called Okies by locals who were tired of their presence. The photo, one of many in the same vein, made Lange a singular figure in modern photography. Alongside Dorothea Lange, author John Steinbeck is one of the most famous chroniclers of the Depression. He is best remembered for his novels The Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men, both of which portray migrant workers, also called Okies, looking for work and struggling for survival during the 1930s. Before publishing these works and rising to international acclaim, Steinbeck worked for the Farm Security Administration, just like Lange, writing about what he saw in the fields and encampments in rural California. He grew up in what's known as the salad bowl of the nation, the Salinas Valley, which still grows a lot of the fresh fruit and vegetables that Americans eat. Steinbeck writes about real people with a sensitivity that is balanced out by the coarseness of the scenes and stories he describes. He wrote aggressive social criticism, making the argument again and again that the country ought to treat its farm workers with far greater dignity and respect. In your assignment, you have an excerpt from Starvation Under the Orange Trees, which was first published in a local California newspaper in Monterey in 1938.